It was my first semester at college, a small liberal arts school nestled deep in the hills of rural Pennsylvania, surrounded by a forest so thick the sunlight barely reached the ground. The trees seemed to lean toward the campus like they were eavesdropping on every conversation. My dorm, Hall C, stood at the edge of the tree line, farthest from the main campus. Third floor, room 3 up in. That's where I met Greg. He wasn't there when I arrived, just a suitcase on the other bed and a hoodie draped over the chair. A faded orange hoodie with small, frayed letters on the sleeve that spelled lucky. I remember thinking, at least he's not a slob. Everything was neatly placed, and the suitcase was zipped up tight. Later that night, I came back from orientation and Greg was there. He had a gap in his teeth, a mop of black hair, and a tired but friendly smile. "You must be Evan," he said. "I'm Greg. This room sucks, but at least it's ours." We talked for hours. He asked me questions about home, classes, and favorite horror movies. Said he wasn't really decided on a major yet. Claimed he just liked learning stuff. I asked what classes he was in, and he hesitated, then said something like, just general stuff. The next few weeks went by fast. We hung out constantly, shared meals, stayed up late playing games. Greg was normal, a little quirky, never left the dorm with a phone, didn't like mirrors, said they made his skin crawl. But hey, everyone has something. Still, there were a few oddities. He didn't have a student ID. I figured he lost it. His name never showed up on any building directory. He always avoided group events. He never went to class, at least not when I was around. One day I asked, half joking, "Are you even a real student?" He laughed. "That's the trick, Evan. You don't have to be real, just act like it." I laughed too, but it stuck in my mind. That night, I woke up around 3 a.m. Greg wasn't in bed, the door was locked. His bed was cold, but his hoodie was sitting on the chair, damp, like he'd just come in from the rain. Except it hadn't rained that night. A week later, I got a knock on the door. Housing services. Routine check. The RA glanced around. "Is your roommate here?" I said no. "He's probably at the library or something." The RA frowned. "Who?" "Greg." He stared at me. "Evan, you don't have a roommate? Room 317's a single." My stomach dropped. "No, that's wrong. Greg's lived here since day one." The RA shook his head. "You moved in alone. We only assign singles to third-floor edge rooms. There's no Greg on our student roster." I pulled out my phone, scrolled through photos. There we were, 2 of us. Greg holding a burrito, grinning. I showed the RA. He stared at the phone, then at me. "Your front camera's cracked. That's just you in a mirror." I looked again. The photo had changed. Just me, sitting all alone. No hoodie, no second plate. I felt sick. That night, I stayed up until dawn. Greg didn't come back. His bed was empty. His side of the room was gone. No clothes, no books, not even dust. Like it had never been used. Only the hoodie remained. On the chair, I picked it up. It was dry now, but the inside lining was stained with something dark. That's when the dream started. I'd wake up standing in the hallway, barefoot, cold, facing the mirror by the elevators. The hallway would stretch too far. The light would flicker behind me. And always I would see Greg in the mirror, standing just behind me, grinning. His reflection blinked when I didn't. I tried to find information, asked other students. Nobody had ever heard of Greg. The only person who even vaguely remembered anything was an old janitor named Walt. When I said the name, he paled. "Gregory Barnes?" he asked. "Third floor, Hall C?" I nodded. Walt stared at me. "Kid died in '97. Suicide, jumped from 317. They shut that room down for years. But I lived there." He shook his head slowly. "They reopened it last year. Guess they stopped telling the story." I asked why he remembered it. "Because," he said, "he wore that ugly orange hoodie every day." He pointed to my chair, where it now sat, folded, neatly, waiting. That night, I set up a camera, pointed it at my bed. I lay awake for hours. At 3:17 a.m., I felt the bed shift. The camera stayed still. The sheets beside me pulled tight, like someone had lain down. I whispered, "Greg?" A pause. Then, "You remembered me." I tried to get out of bed, but my body wouldn't move. Paralyzed, breathless, the air in the room turned cold, and I heard footsteps, pacing the floor. I couldn't see him, but I heard the whisper, "Now I'll never leave." I woke up screaming. The camera footage? It showed me sleeping soundly. No movement, except one frame. At 3:17, a flicker, a second silhouette beside me, wearing an orange hoodie. To this day, I don't know what Greg was. A ghost? A memory left behind? Something worse? All I know is he was real to me, real enough to miss, real enough to haunt. Because sometimes when I walk past mirrors, I catch a second reflection, grinning, gap-toothed, and wearing orange. And it's not just mirrors. Once, I caught a glimpse of him in the dark window of the library basement while walking home late from a study session. He was just standing there behind the glass, watching. No movement, no expression. A week after that, I opened my dorm closet and found a post-it note stuck to the inside of the door. The handwriting was mine. I'm still here. I never wrote that. Another time I was studying in the library and dropped my pen. When I bent down to pick it up, I noticed a faint inscription on the bottom of the table. Lucky, the same worn letters as Greg's hoodie. I didn't even tell anyone after that. What could I say? That my imaginary friend had left a note in my closet and carved his catchphrase into library furniture? I'd already started skipping meals, classes, even sleep. My professor called me into his office, asked if everything was all right. Just adjusting, I said. He tilted his head. You know, it's strange. You're the second student I've taught who was placed in 317 and stopped showing up to class. What happened to the other one? I asked. He didn't answer, just said, take care of yourself. On the last night of the semester, I packed my bags. I wasn't coming back. Not to that dorm, not to that floor. I tossed the hoodie into a trash bag and dropped it in the dumpster outside, didn't look back. But at 3:17 a.m., I woke up one last time. The room was cold, the air was heavy, and the chair beside my bed creaked. I didn't want to look, but I did. The hoodie was back, worn, occupied. Greg was sitting in the chair, hands folded in his lap, grinning. I knew you couldn't leave me behind. He stood slowly, walked to the foot of my bed and said, roommates stick together. Then he vanished. In the morning, there was no trace of him. No smell, no footsteps, only the faintest imprint in the dust on the chair. Like someone had sat there all night, waiting, watching, still wearing orange. The next semester, someone else moved into room 378. His name was Daniel Monroe, a transfer student, political science major. Tall, clean cut, with a serious demeanor and a no-nonsense personality. He wasn't superstitious, didn't believe in ghosts, didn't care about rumors. He just wanted a quiet room close to the library. But by week 2, things started to happen. It began with the mirror by the elevator. He swore he saw someone standing behind him in the reflection. Just for a second, a pale face, a grin with a gap between the teeth. He turned around, no one there. Then came the hoodie. Daniel found it folded neatly at the foot of his bed after class. Faded orange. Letters on the sleeve. Lucky. He asked his roommate. He had none. He asked the RA, they checked the cameras. Nobody had entered the room, but the footage glitched at exactly 3:17 a.m. Daniel started losing sleep. He told friends the room felt too full, like someone else was breathing beside him at night. He had dreams, vivid, disturbing. He'd wake up in the hallway, standing barefoot, facing the mirror. In the reflection, himself. And behind him, someone in a hoodie, unmoving, always grinning. One night, he scrawled a note on his desk in a half-dream. The mirror shows the truth. He never left. The next morning, it was gone. But the post-it note in the closet read, we're friends now too. He asked around. One student, Evan, had disappeared the semester before, withdrawing suddenly, leaving everything behind except a note that simply said, he's real. The college had tried to cover it up, but Daniel found the RA who used to manage the 3rd floor. Room 317, he said, that room's always been strange. He wouldn't say more. Daniel bought sage, crosses, kept the lights on all night, but it didn't matter. Because at exactly 3:17 a.m. each morning, the camera glitched. The sheets beside him shifted, and someone whispered in the dark, roommates stick together. Daniel was found unconscious in the hallway one morning, face pale, lips trembling, repeating just one word, Greg. He never returned to 317, but the hoodie stayed, still folded, still waiting. Daniel was transferred to another dorm shortly after. They labeled it stress-induced dissociation, possibly a sleep disorder. But he wouldn't talk about what happened, not to anyone. He dropped most of his classes that semester, started avoiding mirrors entirely, and refused to walk past the old dorm. But others noticed, even students from other halls. They saw lights flickering in room 317, heard footsteps pacing at 3:17 a.m. The security guard once claimed he saw someone inside, despite the room being locked. Just a guy in a hoodie, he said, didn't look up, just sat in the chair, like he was waiting for someone. They checked the security feed. No one there. Later that semester, a group of freshmen dared each other to sneak into the room. One brought his phone, live streamed it, Laughs, jokes, then silence. The camera caught it all. The empty chair slowly turned, and a hand, barely visible, rested on the armrest. The live stream cut out. The student dropped out the next week. He said something had followed him back to his dorm. Scribbled Lucky in black Sharpie across his desk over and over until his fingers bled. When his roommate asked why, he said, he doesn't like being ignored. Room 317 was closed after that. Official reason, mold, structural decay. But students still talk. They say if you stand in front of the old door at exactly 3:17 a.m., you'll hear two things. A low whisper, you remembered me. And then, roommates stick together. And if you're really unlucky, the doorknob will turn. They reopened room 317 again the following fall. New coat of paint, new bed, new lock. No explanation, no warning, no history. The room was assigned to a junior named Maya Chen, a psych major. Rational, grounded, a born skeptic. She didn't believe in ghosts, curses, or stories whispered between floorboards. When someone mentioned 317 was cursed, she rolled her eyes. Until the first night, at 3:17 a.m., she woke up gasping. The hoodie was there, folded, at the foot of her bed. She didn't own it. She threw it out. The next night it was back, this time laid neatly on the chair. And next to it, a note written in unfamiliar handwriting. You're just like them. Maya began to dream in loops. She would wake in her dream inside her room, but it felt older, like it hadn't been lived in for decades. The door would be open. In the hallway stood a boy, gap-toothed, grinning. Where's Evan, she asked once. He left, the boy said. Then, but not all of him. She always woke up shivering. Her clock always read 3:17. One night, she searched the room. Behind a loose floorboard, she found a notebook. Moldy, yellowed, torn. Inside were journal entries about Greg and Evan. The last entry was barely legible. I thought leaving would break it, but it's not the room. It's the memory. She tried researching, found campus archives, nothing on Gregory Barnes, nothing on Evan. But she did find a yearbook photo from 1996. Third floor, Hall C resident group. Every student was accounted for, except one, a blurry shape, orange hoodie, standing in the back, smiling. No name listed. The last straw came on a stormy Thursday. She came home to find her mirror fogged. Written on it, I'm still waiting. She ran, out of the dorm, out of campus housing, but the dreams followed her. And every night at 3:17, she feels a presence watching. Sometimes she sees her reflection blink when she doesn't. Sometimes she sees a second chair in the corner of her bedroom, occupied by someone wearing orange, still grinning. Some say room 317 is locked again. Some say it was demolished. Others say it's still there, just harder to find. But if you're ever in Hall C and you pass by an empty room where the number plate is scratched off, listen carefully. If you hear a soft whisper, you remembered me, don't answer. If you do, you'll never live alone again. Maya moved to off-campus housing, determined to forget everything. She burned the hoodie in a steel trash bin behind her apartment complex. Watched the flames curl through the faded letters. Lucky. The air around her smelled like old leaves and copper. But that night she dreamt of room 317. The door was open. Inside, she saw all of them. Evan, Daniel, others she didn't recognize. All seated on beds, backs to her, heads tilted. And Greg standing in the center, smiling. This isn't about rooms, he said. It's about the ones who see me. Maya woke up sweating, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. There's always a room for you. She dropped the phone. Then her closet door creaked. She hadn't opened it in days. Inside, hung neatly, was the hoodie. Not burned, not charred, perfect, clean, waiting. She didn't scream, just closed the door. But the next day she withdrew from school. Left town, blocked every number. Yet every night, no matter where she stayed, at 3:17 a.m. she woke up, and the chair in her room would creak. Some say Greg was never a ghost. Some say he was an idea. A thought that learned how to live. That he exists in memory, in fear, in stories whispered just loud enough to be heard by something else. Something patient, something wearing orange. Because Greg doesn't haunt rooms, he haunts people. And if you're reading this, he's already found you. Years passed, the college changed. Hall C was eventually converted into administrative offices, and room 318 was sealed for good, its door painted over, its number removed. But whispers remain. I came back, not by choice, I was invited. An email arrived in my inbox from a campus event coordinator, asking alumni to share their stories for a college podcast on urban myths and student legends. I ignored it until the second email came. This one had no subject line, No sender, just 5 words. You forgot about me, Evan. And attached was a photo. Room 317. The door open. Inside, a chair. And the hoodie, still folded. I returned that fall. Told myself it was to get closure. But I knew better. They let me into the building after hours. I walked the halls. New walls, new paint. But the bones were the same. I stood outside where room 317 had been. There was no door, just drywall. But at exactly 3:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Come in. And the wall creaked, then opened, like it had never been sealed. Inside was my old room, unchanged, and Greg sitting in the chair, grinning. Welcome back, roommate. The door slammed shut behind me. I screamed. No one heard. They never found me, only my phone. It lay on the floor in front of a wall that shouldn't have opened. The last photo on it? A selfie of 2 people, me and Greg, both smiling, both wearing orange. But the story didn't end there. Because the week after my disappearance, another student got the same email, an invitation, same 5 words. You forgot about me, Evan. Even though his name wasn't Evan, he replied out of curiosity. They told him there was no podcast, no coordinator, no invitation, but the email came again the next night with a new attachment. This time, a mirror selfie. In the background, you guessed it, room 317, and me, standing behind the photographer, still smiling, still wearing orange. And if you're wondering how this story got out, maybe I wrote it, or maybe Greg did, because some memories write themselves, especially the ones that don't want to be forgotten, especially the ones still waiting. At 3:17 a.m., there's a room off campus now, far from Hall C. You wouldn't know it by looking at it, an old storage closet in the theater department. No number, no lock. Just a warped wooden door with chipped paint and a small sign that reads, "Do not enter." But students still talk. They say if you open that door at exactly 3:17 a.m., you won't find mop buckets or paint cans. You'll find a chair, a folded hoodie, and sometimes a mirror leaning against the wall that shows things behind you that aren't there. Maya knows. She tried to move on, change schools, change names, but the dreams followed her like ash in the wind. And every time she looked too long into a mirror, Greg would be there, waiting, not angry, not even vengeful, just expectant. Because Greg doesn't hunt, Greg invites. He reaches out through memory, through fear, through stories told one too many times. And that room in the theater building, it's not new. It's room 317 again, just shifted, hidden, alive. Because people like Maya, like Daniel, like Evan, they all remember. And remembering is all Greg needs. He doesn't need walls or keys, just your attention. Because you read this, you know him now. And at 3:17 tonight, if you hear a creak, a knock, or see a faint figure smiling in your reflection, don't turn around. He only knocks once now. But some stories don't end. They change shape. Weeks after Maya vanished again, a maintenance worker found a slip of paper wedged behind the mirror in the theater closet. It was old, yellowed, but the handwriting was clear. I don't know where I end and he begins. It was signed Evan. And then it started happening at other schools, different towns, different campuses. Students waking up at 3:17 a.m. Students dreaming of a hoodie they never owned. Whispers in the walls, laughter behind mirrors. Some claim it's an internet hoax. Others say it's a shared delusion. But the truth is, memory spreads. And once you know Greg, once you picture him, that mop of hair, that hoodie, that smile, it's already too late. You don't need to live in room 317. You just need to believe it existed. You just need to read his story. Greg lives in memory. And now he lives in you. He only needs the invitation. And the invitation is simple. Roommates stick together. So tonight, when the lights are out and the house creaks and your skin prickles like someone standing too close behind you, don't turn around. Because if you do, you'll see him, smiling, waiting, still wearing orange. I'm writing this from a motel off the interstate, lights flickering overhead, TV on mute. I don't know why I'm writing. Maybe I think this will make it stop. Maybe it's just the only thing left I can do. It's been weeks since I saw him last, or maybe it's only been hours. Time doesn't feel linear anymore. I can't sleep. I've covered every mirror, every screen, no windows, just blankets tacked to the walls. I haven't looked at my reflection in days. I don't dare. But sometimes I hear the chair creak, just once. And sometimes I feel it, that shift in the air, like someone has just walked into the room. But when I turn around, there's nothing there, or at least nothing I can see. I'm trying to remember who I was before Greg, before the hoodie, before 317 became more than just a time. But memories blur. And sometimes I talk out loud, just in case he's listening. Not to provoke him, but because I think he's lonely. He's not cruel, just constant, just waiting. Sometimes I wonder if Greg was ever a person at all. Maybe he was always a place, or a feeling, or maybe he's what's left behind when someone has forgotten too deeply for too long. But the part that scares me the most, I think I'm becoming him. I caught a glimpse of myself in the dark TV screen earlier. Gap-toothed grin, orange hoodie. I don't own an orange hoodie. I didn't smile, but my reflection did. And now I'm not sure if I'm the one telling the story, or if the story is telling me. So here it is, the last reflection, my last memory, before Greg takes it too. If you're reading this, don't remember me, don't speak his name. Because even now, as I type this, I can hear it. Knock, just once, but that's all he needs.